second section on page AyinBase 15. ve-hinay yadua, it is known sheyesh madreges gam ba'ir insof shelifnei hatzimtzum, that there are different madreges even in the Ayin insof preceding the tzimtzum, which means the Ayin insof, the essential Ayin insof, as it comes from atzmos. There too, there are different madreges. B'derech klal, in general, to identify these madreges, hu bechinas etzem ha'oir v'hispashtus. These two qualities which I already mentioned before. The etzem of the oir, as we said before, etzem ha'oir, this is tzura atzmis, that represents the atzmos. The hispashtus oir, and that the hispashtus means this is the functional aspect of the oir, the effect of the oir. Shezehu, the hispashtus oir, this is bechinas atzilus diklolus. This is the aspect that is named Atzilus, but Atzilus diklolus. There is the Olam HaAtzilus after the Tzimtzum. We say this is part of the structure of the four worlds, Atzilus, B'ri, Yitzir, Asiyah. And then there is, and before the Tzimtzum, there is the Inyan Atzilus diklolus, which means Atzilus on a higher and a more encompassing level. What is the principle of naming this thing Atzilus diklolus? The point is that, as we said originally, when we said the Inyan from Ayin has soiviv kolam. Soiviv means that it even though it's higher than being, it cannot be contained in kelim and so forth, but it is soiviv, meaning that this is, in our terminology, this is what gives the context. It relates to it, and it gives it a sense of presence. The similar thing in Atzilus, Atzilus in general, even at the lower level Atzilus, this is what gives it a context, because Atzilus represents the Keser, represents Atzmos. Etzem, like the Rambam says, that the first principle is that there is a Motzur Rishon. Without Motzur Rishon, there is nothing. If there is not the presence of the Motzur Rishon, there is nothing. Atzilus has that quality that it represents the Motzur Rishon. This is what's called chochmah. It does not have its own mitzias. Only, as we were speaking the whole time of oil, only the keser, the atzmus itself, in oil form. And then there is atzilus diklolus. This is the Ein Sof Shelifnei Hatzimtzum. As we spoke before many times, it is almost impossible in words to define the difference between the oil Shelifnei Hatzimtzum and the oil Shel Hatzimtzum, except by pointing out that Achar Hatzimtzum, the oil is filling a vacuum. There's a mokim ponui. When you say it's filling a vacuum, means that there is a cognizance how the oil comes. It was missing, and then it comes. It's chos over here. Atzilus, diklolus, there isn't that process. It is fully representative of Etzem. the perception that it was not and it is doesn't exist. Therefore, it represents the union from Atzilus or Lakus to the fullest. Just as the principle that there is a Motzu Rishon, there's a first being. The first being, the concept of the first being, is not something that is being realized, being recognized, found out. There is nothing without the Motzu Rishon. Motzu Rishon is the very foundation of existence. The Oy shel Lifnei HaTzimtzum has that quality. And this is the Atzilus the Close. And it's called Atzilus the Close. Why is it called Atzilus the Close? Again, because this is an oil, this is a spashtus oil. This oil has an aspect of function, of gilui. Therefore, it's called Atzilus. U'konoida, the bechinas biyah haklolim, that the aspect of biyah, brio, yitzira, asira, haklolim, at the level of klal, harei ak, so there, odom kadmein, bechinas brio de klolis. Ak is identified as brio de klolis. Because Ak, Odom Kadman, Ak, this is already the first Madrege after the Tzimtzum. It's a creation. That's called Bria. Va'atzilus the Klolis, and therefore the Madrege of Atzilus the Klolis, Zeh Bechinas Ha'ein Sof Shelifnei HaTzimtzum. This is the aspect of Ha'ein Sof, which precedes the Tzimtzum. Noida. It is also known the whole inyan ho-atzilus. That what is the principle of atzilus? Ho bechinas ha-gilui. The principle of atzilus is the aspect of gilui. Gilui means presentation or revelation. What this is saying is Atzilus, just as we speak, I speak about chochmah, even though we are talking about before the Tzimtzum, but the only way for us to kind of relate to the concept is bring it down. Just like in chochmah. Chochmah is that quality in the nefesh, in the human being, that perceives and that knows that which is presented from above, not that which it experiences from below. Chochmah does not recognize the Messias of the world by experience, by seeing it. It recognizes the Messias of the world because the Oyer the Kislev tells him about it. That's a chochmah. Just like chochmah by a person. We say that the first principle in chochmah is to know that there's a first being. This knowledge that there's a first being precedes all experiences. This is what gives substance, gives the possibility of there being anything. So chochmah is that first moment where the principle of the first being is recognized. And what is the function of chochmah? In essence, in the nefesh, the principle of first being is an essence. So what's the point of having chochmah? The point of chochmah is to reveal that principle. That's a gilui. Because from chochmah, then you can draw into bina and into midas, and then it can be created a whole human structure. Which is called bechinas hagilui. Since we have a skeleton crew, I'm going to go in a little bit into this. The mashal for chochmah, as we always say, is an ear, is sight. The principle of sight is in contrast to touch, for example, and we already pointed this out many times. In touch, you touch one single object at a time. It's very real, but the reality is very qualified because the object is not real in and of itself. It's real because of a general context. Like we say, a table is a table because it's part of a whole structure, of a whole room. But this is what is in touch. And sight, the reason that sight is so real is because sight sees the reality. In sight, you observe the entire panorama. And the reason you observe the entire panorama is not because you cumulatively observe it, because you relate directly to the reality, the basic reality. Now, here is the real challenging concept. The reason that this observation of the entire panorama it gives you a sense of reality. You don't experience anything. In touch, you experience the object. You have something that substantiates that this exists because it really hurts you. What is the substantiating aspect in sight? What takes sight out of the realm of imagination and to the realm of reality? You don't experience anything. The answer is that this observation is enabled. The reason that you say, "Oh yeah, it's there," is enabled by your prior knowledge. In a most fundamental level, that there is a first being. This whole panorama is representing the revelation, the presence of the first being. What's the difference then? If the presence of the first being is known first, prior to sight, prior to chochmah, so what's the function? What do you need chochmah for? You have the real thing before. The answer is gilui. It reveals that which is enabled by the first being.
That's the being shown.
This is what's being shown. Yeah, because there's no reality that which you see, only if it is being shown by the first being.
So that we said, if you have the prior knowledge, why do we need sight?
Why do we need sight? Why do we need chochmah?
Yes, and the answer there was
that reveal that this is the gilui.
Meaning,
Meaning, what is, we said in the side you see the whole panorama. What does that mean, see panorama? First being is a fundamental infinity. You cannot see anything there at all. Sight says, oh yeah, there is room for so much infinite. You could put infinite amount of stuff in here. Like in panorama. In other words, it brings that truth of the first being to a worldly level, but not a worldly level of structure, but that which enables world. It's a principle of gilui. This is the Inyan, whole Inyan Ho'atzilus Hu Bechinas Hagilui. The Inyan of Atzilus. What is the function? What is the principle of Atzilus? Is the Bechinas Hagilui. Atzilus does not represent something new. Atzilus does not represent something, like we said, in sight. What makes sight real? The knowledge of the first being. Without that, there's nothing there. It's imagination. So therefore, if it is all based, and that is its reality, the first being. So what is accomplished by this panorama? Gilui. Like we said before, in Atzmos there is everything. Where you see, and this sight reveals that there is everything. Like we said the other day, this earth, this everything, the unlimited everything, is to us manifest by the fact that a single tree, a single branch of a tree, can produce an infinite number of different shapes of leaves. Boggles the mind. The reason that can be is because this reveals the essence, because there's an essential truth in the tree. Hashem said there should be a tree. There is an essential truth in this. There is no limit to express what the tree is. There's no limit. This is Bechinas Hagilui. In Alakus, Atzilus is the Hagilui. Just like in Nefesh Odom, chochmah is that which enables everything else. In our world, in our experience. Okay, follow this. We said many times the idea of oir, light, is transformed the whole world. Before that it was dark, and now an empty light. And what is transformation? Transformation is that it brought the sense of reality. How is so? In the dark you can also feel your way around. You can feel your way, I'm touching this. But it does not bring with it a sense of reality. What is there? Why is it there? What does it stand for? The whole Inyan of Motor Rishon is missing. Just happens to be.
Missing because you can't see it. You say it's dark, so it's missing because there's no gilui.
Yeah, but think about this. We spoke many times. What is the method of identity that comes through touch. It is not the reality of this thing. It is its effect upon you. So it's a secondary nature. You don't really relate to the truth of the object that you're touching. You're relating to its effect upon you. That's way distant from the reality. Because it affects you, therefore you conclude that there is something there. But not that you relate to that something itself. In sight, you have the truth of the something itself. That's what you relate to, because it doesn't affect you. The reason you see it is because it's really there. Because and the substantiation of that is a motivation, because motivation enables that to be, and therefore it makes sense that it is there. Anybody follow this? We always ask a question. As a question, it's a rhetorical question. Sight is a phenomenal experience. In that, in addition to what, but at the most fundamental, lowest level, is that you are observing and relating to an object in the physical world without ever having to come in contact with the object. How is it? The object is a physical object. It exists only there, not here. How you, from a distance, are actually substantiating its true presence. Right? That's what sight is. And what is the phenomenon of this behind it? How come you're so sure? How come it's so real to you, even though you never tested it, you never touched it? The answer is that when you see inside, you see that it's real because the motivation is represented there. This is what makes it real. This is why this is called Atzilus. It is a direct reflection of the fact that there is a motivation. And this is what enables, this is the gilui of that concept of motivation.
That's chochmah.
This is chochmah. And this gilui means it goes in, it is recognized outside of it. Which means it's an emokimus man. And this is what enables then afterwards the chochmah to come into bina. Bina focuses in what is it that I see. If you have bina without chochmah, then you have nothing. This is what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Where you find an object by touching it. It's not real.
That's science.
Huh?
That's science.
The science.
Just plain science.
Plain
Without
science.
any point of reference.
That's right.
Just
This is,
observation.
and they say this is the whole truth, and it completely deprives them of any sense of reality.
True.
Okay. Eventually, we understand these terms. Atzilus u bechinas hagilui. That's the din Atzilus. Huh?
And how did we get what we just said relate to where we are inside? How did we?
Yirhu Atzilus u bechinas hagilui.
Okay.
Atzilus is compared to chochmah. Chochmah is compared to Atzilus. Atzilus means close by. It's just a reflection, emanation from the real thing. That's what chochmah is. And what is the function? What is the purpose? The point of this emanation? The gilui of that first being, of that truth. Bechinas hagilui. What is the difference between the way it is first, before the gilui, and after the gilui? For the gilui, it is known only. It is absolute truth, but it does not have an external identification. No hispashtus. It cannot be known externally, and this is what enables it to be known externally. Once there is an external thing, bechinas hagilui, then you can begin to identify all kinds of content within it. Let's take it on a very simple level and then we'll done. You say, Odom shein baic ein Odom. And we always speak of this principle, Odom shein baic ein Odom. It's not a human being. It goes down to the very reality of the human being. Ein Odom. What happens when he gets a bias? When he gets a bias, then he goes into the house and starts populating it with furnishings. Because now this principle that he has a bias is begilui. And the minute you start at the house, you say, oh, there is a piece of furniture here. Here's what the house stands for. This is what I use the house. But it's all based on the primary basis of a principle of AyinBase. It's in my home. Because furnishings and everything that the furnishings brings, all the functional you can have in a hotel room. And it doesn't compare on having it in the house. Having it in your home is a completely different thing.
Just having a house is the motzai rishon.
Yeah, this is like the essence of the person.
Yeah.
Ein Odom. But once you have the house, that's called. This is like the gilui of that principle of Odom. What happens? A human being needs tables and chairs and needs all kinds of amenities. It's all part of being a human being. On what level? On the gilui level. If you have the essence, then you have the gilui. This is it. For